All right, Sandra, we're doing another video, another marketing video for equestrian businesses and riders. And we're going to first talk about a little bit the Super Bowl commercials. And here in Canada, we don't get the full extent of the commercials. We get Canadian commercials that usually are not the same. But thankfully, YouTube exists and we can find them online. So we find a few.
Uh, well, I just was watching the ones that you sent me, and the Amazon, the bubbly buble, the corn syrup, and the Bumble. But right now, I'm still I'm still laughing about the corn syrup one because it's a smear campaign, really. Mm-hmm. It's a smear campaign. Against the other beer. I mean, I'm not like a beer drinker. I mean, I drink a beer on occasion, but I didn't know that corn syrup was in beer, and why suddenly we're caring so much about what's in beer and corn syrup. That's is this paleo beer? I don't know. No corn, you can't have corn. It's like, oh, I didn't know there was corn syrup, and that was pretty funny. And they obviously had a good budget for that commercial with lots of cool effects in it. The big octopus taking over the boat. I think
it's funny because nowadays I think that brands are looking for purpose and they're looking for things to stand out. And the one about the corn syrup, I don't know if it's something that people care about, or they just couldn't find anything else that makes them, that differentiates that brand. I never like when they name their competitors. I always feel like, I don't like it.
Isn't there legal implications to that?
I don't know.
It blows my mind. I didn't think that you could do that. I think the other ones would be mad, but what can they say? Yeah, we have corn syrup. I don't know.
It looks like such a bad thing. It's like they put puppies in their beer or something. I don't know how terrible the fault is.
I really, honestly, I think it's the sugar. It's the no sugar, the no corn, the healthy diet. Those are the people that they're appealing to. I guess that's what they've identified as their target market. And I know corn is not allowed in some of those diets, but the smearing, which leads me to another commercial, which many of you may not see, and we can put a link below. And that's this Canadian commercial that Unifor, which is the union that represents the auto workers, they put out what I consider to be the most alarming smear campaign. You watch the commercial, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. You got to go watch it, and at the end you're just the last statement is just mind blowing.
You can say it.
It's basically we're never going to forget this terrible thing that you did.
Because what happened is
I'm just shocked by the commercial. I'm just shocked by it. I mean, I have 2 GMCs up front.
You feel bad for them. You almost feel bad for General Motors.
I have 2 of them. I have Allison transmission. Love them. Heart. But the commercial still it really got me in my gut for a minute. I think, that's what commercials are meant to do.
Because I think they're closing plants and they're laying off some jobs. So
despite the bailout, right?
Yeah,
so
and it's
we helped you, GM, and now we're never going to forget that you did it.
And if you want to sell cars in Canada, build them in Canada.
Right. I mean, it's visually a beautiful commercial.
Yeah, it is very nice.
It's well done, and it's whoa. While we're talking about beer, the Budweiser commercial, the dog flapping his mouth in the wind, and for me, not the typical Budweiser commercial at all. There's not that story. It's just very visual. They've got these panning effects, and it comes out at the end, and it's we're making our beer with wind power, so we're environmentally conscious. I mean, that's not the words that they use, but that's the end result of that, which to me, it kind of is. Why did they choose to do that? Is it the same reason why Bud Light choose to highlight they don't have corn syrup, and they're targeting this conscience that people are caring about the environment or caring about what they put in their body? It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to really do anything for them. In 3 months, will people remember that? I don't think so. I think the Clydesdales ads, people actually remember them, and they were waiting for them. And I think that when companies, I think brands now, it's like it's all about purpose, and they're trying to figure out where they stand. And that aspect of being more environment friendly, if that's your commitment, then you have to go all in, not just have a commercial and go, well, we make it with wind, no corn syrup, no this, no that. And there's not like one central purpose that they're really going for.
Apparently it's windy. It's windy when you get on the wagon and you got the 8 Clydesdales pulling it through the field. I mean, it's just like, it's going to make your face flap around. And I think we'll remember that funny start with the dog. It's kind of cute. But
yeah, but I don't think it's going to be memorable.
No, speaking of women's stuff, why don't we talk about the Bumble video?
Yeah, that is, I don't know. I'm kind of like, it's almost paint by numbers. It's the one with Serena Williams, and it's all about, what is it, like the ball's in your court. I find that those types of commercials with the voice and it's supposed to be inspirational, I'm kind of over them.
For me, this is the first time that I ever really, we talk about those commercials that I haven't really, this is a very feminist commercial. Mm-hmm. I was silent after. I didn't know what to say. The first part of that commercial kind of weirded me. They kind of went in with that you're supposed to wait. So, okay, so there's multiple levels of connotation here. You're supposed to wait until the guy asks you out on a date or sends you a message when you're using your other things like Tinder, right? Okay, whatever. But there's that other connotation of waiting, waiting for marriage, etc. It just really, in a weird way, it's a powerful commercial for me, but I just feel like I need to watch it a couple more times to sort of wrap my head around how modernly feminist it is. I would love to know if anybody out there is using Bumble. I would like to hear what they have to say about using those apps. I'm just curious.
Okay, and then the Amazon one, which is my favorite. That's my favorite, with the dog that barks and then orders food with Harrison Ford.
It's pure humor of, here they've taken something and they've poked fun at themselves. The internet was already sort of poking fun at Alexa there was a humorous side of it to begin with, so they just really nailed it by using that avenue that already existed. So yeah, and it's funny, and you can watch it a couple of times to see the little intricate details, and that's what a commercial is about. You want somebody to go back and watch it again. Oh, it's so funny, and then watch it again and be like, oh, look at that, I missed that the first time. That could happen with that commercial.
The ones that people share are the funny commercials, or the really emotional ones. But in the case that the ones that we've seen, nothing was really hitting the emotional points. And I find that in our industry, to get a segue into our business, like there's a very few companies that are really using humor. Actually, there's none of them really. Yeah,
I think the last commercial that we should talk about, which personally was the one that I laughed the most at, was the bubbly.
Oh yeah, Michael Bublé.
The bubbly Bublé commercial. I mean,
that's really funny.
It's so funny, and I've never drank this stuff before. I
don't even know what it is.
You know what? I'm not going to forget it. When I go into the store and it's on the shelf, I'm not going to forget it now. I will never forget it because of that commercial.
I mean, it's incredible.
For himself, he does so well in that commercial, and it was a perfect match.
That is like the most genius commercial of them all in terms of the it's so simple, and I think it's the one, like if you look at it, other than paying Michael Bublé, like what kind of budget did they have to shoot? Like they basically shot it in a grocery store. So right? There's no special effects, nothing, but it
some Sharpies
it shows how simple having a good concept was. But of course, whoever came up with that in the meeting was a genius, because they probably went someone really creative, and that's creativity, and then they executed it well. But it doesn't have to be fireworks and really complicated special effects and whatnot.
No, it doesn't.
And when we discuss brand, I'm launching this brand challenge next week. And these commercials, it elevates the brand with something funny, but they're not particularly selling a product, or they're not particularly selling anything specific. It's more about like the concept of the brand name.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that nowadays everything is very specific and very targeted. I want to sell X amount this week with this link and this coupon code or this whatever, and then track every single aspect of it. But for a branding campaign, it's more about getting the brand out there, especially in the equestrian market, whether you're selling a service or a product. People really put a lot of effort and investment, if you will. When I talk about investment, it could be your time, not necessarily like millions of dollars, but very much focused on the product and then sales. And they forget the part in the middle that is branding, that is brand building, and that is marketing, but more about the brand. And often, like, how many times have we seen people who just go to like a graphic designer, get me a logo and, you know, a website, and that's my brand.
Yeah,
and that's
there's so much more to it. You know, when we look back at the bubbly commercial, it seems so silly. You're just choosing, you know, to buy a drink that's like, I don't even know what the price point is. You just remember that they were funny. Like, you just remember the emotion of it, and then you make a purchase. And, you know, these Super Bowl commercials, they cost a lot of money. They cost a lot of money to produce. You're right. You can't like directly track the result from airing the commercial. But what the commercial does is build that emotional connection and can take a brand to the next level.
I feel that sometimes that's not how people think. They go, okay, well, I designed this shirt and then I'm just going to put it on the market and sell the shirt, and then take riding photos with people with the shirt on. And that's how but at some point it's going to catch up to them, because then they get to a point where they don't know what to do, or they can't go any further because they haven't really established a brand story and a real branding. And of course, when you don't have a lot of, you know, budget, it's difficult to do, but you still need to put effort and think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a key component for sure.
Because I think the brands that then have legs are the ones that have an investment in the brand themselves and making sure that the brand story is consistent with everything that they do. And then when you launch a new product, then you don't have to push it so much because you already have that established.
Yeah.
And one question that we had is someone wanted to raise the prices on their products, and they were wondering how that could be done. Not just like with a price increase, but more like the brand itself needed to go a little bit more upmarket.
I think price is always connected to your brand. It's a piece of it, or whatever you're making. The price needs to fit within what you're trying to do. And we were talking about the other day about the scarf. Whose scarf? Versace
it's an Hermes.
Scarf?
No, it was Hermes.
Hermes, yes.
$5,000 scarf.
Like, is there silk that you buy for $3,500 a meter? I mean, we're talking about a scarf in that price. I mean, they have custom pattern and the artwork and all that stuff that goes along with their brand. But the scarf demands that price because the brand has established themselves as a luxury brand of extreme quality, and it's an art form itself.
Yeah, I think like if you have a current product at a certain price, you can't go, okay, it's going to be triple the price.
No,
you absolutely need to bring a new product or a new line, and maybe it's the gold line, or maybe it's it doesn't necessarily have to have a name, but then you build up slowly. You really push those products, or you really push that aesthetic that is more high end, and you discontinue slowly the lower ones. But it's not something that can be done right away. Sometimes maybe it's going to take 2 years to have the entire process, but you need to commit to where you want to be. Do you want to be at this level, or do you want to be at this level? What kind of brand are you? And the worst is being stuck in the middle. I think you either go cheap or you go expensive, but the middle is something that you need, like volume. Well, you need volume on the cheap too, but I find that is more difficult to be kind of affordable and not like And if it's a boutique, unique product, then you go, okay, I'm going to make like something that is this price. It's higher than average.
Yeah.
And then you have to create and craft a story around it so that there's people perceive that value. And also the product needs to be something of quality. You can't cheat people and make something for $2 and sell it for $2,000. But you definitely need different products, because then you can't just increase the price.
I have a dog problem happening right now. I'm trying to get rid of him, and he's like,
no, that's what happens. You can increase your current items by a little bit, like 5% or something like that, right? You can increase, but you need a strategy to go up market with a different line of products.
Yeah.
And look at what's in the market and how you can differentiate and have, not a rebrand, but go like, this is the client base, this is the price point I need to be at. And then look at brands that maybe not even in the equestrian market, but look at the outdoor market, look at other kinds of markets, and look how they use imagery, what kind of messaging they use, and go, okay, well, this would be the equivalent in ski or in other brands. Or
that's what I mean when you say I have to carefully consider what your brand is right now, and what you're trying to do with it, because you may need to make some evolution there within your brand for it to be perceived, especially if you're moving into sort of a luxury or a higher end item. There's some requirements that need to be there in your brand to make that work.
And I think for equestrian brands, even the sponsor riders or in the ambassadors, if you have any, there's a certain level of people that you need to, that are wearing your brand, that also affects your brand.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's like the user generated content. If you have to go, who would be my ideal client that would pay this price, and then put it at that level of those people. Like your client base, your future client base needs to be reflected in your marketing. So if you see like a bunch of pony kids and you're targeting a 35-year-old professional woman that is maybe executive level at their business, like that's who I need to see in the marketing. It has to fit the client. In your communications, you have to look at the language that you use. Like if you're all like, maybe that doesn't appeal to that crowd. And so it's kind of a little, exercise. It's not just like slapping a product and that's all you do.
Well, like you have this brand challenge coming up, which I think is going to be, you've got some great exercises in there to get businesses thinking about these kinds of things. What are the details of the challenge?
Well, the details is that it starts on Monday, February 11th. And it's a 5-day brand challenge. And we're really going to focus on that. So it's not a social media challenge like I did last time, but more about the fundamentals of branding. And in 5 days, we're going to each day work on a different aspect of it. And hopefully by Friday, people have a kind of a program that can help them develop their brand further, because it's something that people think a lot about their brand, but they don't know necessarily what to do to build it. And the first thing I would say is that it's something that takes time. It's not something that you build just by putting an ad or just, even your Instagram or your social media. It takes time for people to even notice your brand. And then you have to be consistent.
I have to go. My dog is like, why? I have to go let him out. He's like,
let him out.
Will not stop whining. So.
All right. Well, I think we wrapped it up pretty well. So sign up for the challenge and send us questions if you have. Oh, there's a cat. Oh, that's pajamas.
Yeah, pajamas.
And then we'll answer more questions.
Awesome.
Okay, go save your dog.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.